Your grocery bill isn't priced in dollars, it's priced in oil. Every item in your cart carries a hidden fuel gauge that moves your total up or down. Think about last month. Gas jumped a few dimes at the station, and a week later your eggs were $1 higher. The store brand pasta crept up, and strawberries felt like a luxury again. That's not random. That's oil reaching into your kitchen. You feel it when a $19 checkout becomes $25 for the same basket. You tell yourself it's inflation, or greedy companies, or supply chain stuff. But here's the part that nobody tells you. Oil is the thermostat for your groceries. Turn it up, and your cart gets more expensive without anyone needing to raise prices in a cartoonish way. Farms, trucks, ships, plastic, refrigeration, even the lights in the aisle. Oil touches all of it. And the way it flows through the system explains why your receipt changes weeks before anyone on the news gives you a clear reason. If this sounds abstract, picture Saturday morning. You're in the cereal aisle. Last year, your favorite box was $3.50. Then oil jumped from around $70 a barrel to over $100. Within 6 to 8 weeks, that cereal hit $4.20. Why? Because it's not just the cereal. It's the diesel in the tractor that grew the corn. It's the natural gas used to make the fertilizer. It's the plastic bag, which is literally oil. It's the cardboard box, shipped on a truck that eats diesel. It's the store's refrigerated displays and lights, powered by energy whose price rises with oil. This is why a simple gas spike on a Tuesday can become a grocery punch in the wallet by next month. And here's where it gets interesting. The pain doesn't hit everything equally, and the timing isn't random. There's a pattern you can watch like a weather forecast. The hidden mechanism works like a relay race. Oil prices move first. Diesel follows. Freight companies add or lift fuel surcharges. Wholesalers and retailers adjust the price they need to replace inventory. Then finally, you see the shelf tag change. When oil jumps, diesel usually reacts within days because refineries price off crude. Your local farmer doesn't pay a theoretical average. He pays the new price to fill the tractor. That pushes up the cost per acre this season. Meanwhile, the trucking company hauling lettuce from California adds a fuel surcharge the very same week, which lifts the cost per case for your store next week. But here's the twist. Grocery prices often move not when costs hit, but when replacement costs rise. If a store bought a pallet of canned tomatoes at last month's price, but knows the next pallet will cost 20% more because of fuel, they nudge the shelf price now to avoid getting squeezed. That's why your receipt jumps before the news catches up. Let's get concrete. A loaf of bread touches oil at least 6 times before it hits your toaster. Diesel in the tractor to plant and harvest. Natural gas to make. Ammonia fertilizer, which boosts wheat yield. Plastic film around the loaf, derived from petrochemicals. Energy to bake at the factory. Diesel for the truck to the distribution center. Diesel again to the store. Multiply that by thousands of miles, fragile refrigeration windows for produce, and perishable timelines. Now add weight. Heavy, cheap items, think water, soda, big bags of potatoes, are freight sensitive. When diesel spikes, their delivered cost jumps fast. Light, expensive items, a small jar of spices, barely care. That's why when oil swings, you'll see giant cases of sparkling water shoot up quickly, while the tiny packet of saffron sits there smirking at you. But the mechanism goes deeper. Oil price swings don't just push costs, they change decisions. If diesel rises and stays high, a farmer plants fewer acres of fuel-hungry crops next season or uses less fertilizer. That becomes lower supply months later. Lower supply meets steady demand. And here comes another price bump. Meanwhile, big food companies hedge. They buy futures for fuel and ingredients, smoothing costs over quarters. So your shelf price might not mirror every daily oil wiggle. It mirrors the hedged average with a delay. And here's what nobody tells you. The lag isn't consistent. Contracts differ by product. Milk and meat respond on a different clock than canned goods or frozen vegetables. Meat relies on feed, and feed relies on energy. Feed costs jump today, livestock prices jump months later. Your meat counter gets more expensive next quarter. That time gap is why your cart gets pricier in waves rather than all at once. Wait. It gets stranger. Oil interacts with the dollar, and the dollar controls what you pay for imported food. Oil is priced globally in dollars. When oil spikes, sometimes the dollar weakens, as buyers abroad need more dollars to pay for crude. A weaker dollar makes imported coffee, chocolate, and tropical fruit more expensive for you, even if their local production costs don't change much. Flip it. If oil falls and the dollar strengthens, imports can get cheaper. That's why your bananas sometimes hold steady through a gas spike, while coffee jumps because currency moved the other way. And yes, retailers see this. They price replacement inventory on what it will cost to restock given oil, diesel, freight, and currency. You're not paying for what's on the shelf. You're paying for the next truck. Remember that cereal box? Here's the follow-up you didn't expect. Oil later dropped back under $90, and you waited for the old price to return. It didn't. Why? Prices rise like a rocket and fall like a feather. Freight surcharges disappear slower than they arrive. Contracts lock in higher rates through the season. Stores test your willingness to pay at the higher number, and if the product still moves, they keep it close. They might give you a promotional week or shrink the size a little. Hello, shrinkflation, rather than cut the base price rapidly. The sticky part isn't greed by itself, it's also risk. If they cut too fast and oil pops again, they lose money on inventory. So they wait. You wait. The feather floats down. This can feel rigged. It isn't. It's a chain. Oil swings a lever that moves costs, decisions, and psychology. But there's opportunity in knowing the levers. Start with diesel, not gas. Gas headlines grab attention, but diesel moves trucks and tractors. Track the weekly diesel price. When it jumps for a few weeks straight, expect heavier, low-value groceries to move up within 1 to 2 sales cycles. Think 6 to 8 weeks for packaged goods, faster for produce that rides long-haul trucks. When diesel falls and stays down for a month, expect relief on freight-sensitive items next cycle. You can front-load bulk purchases of shelf-stable heavy items when diesel dips and hold off when it spikes. That sounds small until you do it for water, rice, flour, cooking oil, beans, and pet food. Here's the part that changed everything for me. Train your eye for the weight-to-value ratio. Heavy and cheap equals oil-sensitive. Light and pricey equals less sensitive. So swap cases of bottled water for a filter at home. Replace big jugs of juice with concentrates or frozen when freight is high. Choose dried beans over canned when trucks get expensive. Or cook larger batches of legumes and freeze them. Buy potatoes, onions, and apples during regional harvests when they move shorter distances. And this is where things get interesting. Seasonality is a built-in hedge. In-season local produce cuts the diesel miles dramatically. Out-of-season berries flown in from far away are oil on wings. But there's a catch. Not all energy in food comes from oil. Fertilizer depends on natural gas. When natural gas surges, nitrogen fertilizer costs explode. Farmers pull back, yields change, and grains get pricier months later. If oil is the thermostat, natural gas is the oven for fertilizer. Why bring this up in an oil story? Because the energy complex moves together. A sustained oil spike often drags up natural gas, and the combination hits your grocery bill with a second wave. Watch for that 1-2 punch. First, freight-sensitive items jump. Later, ingredients like wheat, corn, and soy push up bread, cereal, meat, dairy, and eggs. You might be thinking, if it's so predictable, why don't prices just adjust precisely? Because humans sit inside the system. Managers guess demand. Companies market hard to keep you from switching. You respond to promotions and end caps. That creates noise on top of the energy signal. Yet the signal remains. It shows up in the rhythm of price tags and the size of packages. It shows up when rotisserie chickens hold at a friendly number while breast meat in the case creeps. Because the store uses one as a loss leader while covering fuel costs elsewhere. It shows up when store brands raise prices first because they move more on price, and national brands follow later with coupons to hide the change. So how do you turn this knowledge into control? 3 moves. First, watch 3 numbers: diesel, the dollar, and distance. Diesel tells you freight pressure. The dollar tells you import pressure. Distance tells you exposure. If diesel rises and the dollar weakens, prepare for pricier coffee, chocolate, bananas, and heavier staples next month. Build a stash of shelf-stable essentials before the increase. Second, switch by sensitivity. When oil spikes, slide your cart toward things that travel less and weigh less per dollar. Local produce, bulk dry goods, concentrates, and frozen over fresh, out of season. When oil drops and stays low, that's when you chase deals on heavy items and stock the pantry. Third, shop on the replacement clock. When you see a consistent run of price increases at the pump, assume grocery resets will show up in 1 to 2 cycles. Grab rain checks, use loyalty sales to buy forward, and be ready to change brands until the surge passes. If you run a small business, a bakery, a cafe, this matters even more. Negotiate with suppliers using the freight surcharge clause. If diesel retreats, ask for the surcharge to revert quickly. Lock in prices for flour and oil when energy dips for a sustained period, not during a spike. Batch production to optimize oven time when electricity peaks. Map your menu against oil sensitivity. Soups and breads hold margins better in energy spikes than heavy meat dishes that rely on diesel-hungry supply chains. Most people think grocery inflation is random or political. It isn't random. It's math, time, and fuel. The reason everything feels more expensive than a few years ago is that we've lived through historic swings in oil, diesel, and gas, alongside supply shocks and currency moves. You felt it every time your cart total surprised you. Now you see the gears turning. You're not guessing. You're reading the fuel gauge. And here's the empowering part. You can forecast your own grocery bill better than the headlines by watching the same signals wholesalers watch. Notice a 3 or 4 week climb in diesel? Shift your shopping to less freight-sensitive items now. Buy heavy shelf-stable items early if you can. And expect meat and dairy pressure next quarter. See diesel falling steadily and the dollar strengthening? Plan a pantry stock-up for heavyweight staples. Keep an eye out for promotions and push for surcharge reductions if you buy for a business. Test every item with the weight-to-value rule and use seasonality as your built-in hedge. Oil price swings matter for your grocery bill because oil is the quiet middleman in almost every bite you eat. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The cereal box is freight and fertilizer. The strawberries are miles and refrigeration. The rotisserie chicken is marketing versus diesel. You don't control the price of oil, but you control when you buy, what you buy, and how quickly you switch. That's real power. The next time you grab a cart, look past the labels and imagine that hidden fuel gauge. You know how it works now, and you know how to make it work for you.